Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday evening. It's 9 o'clock. Time to gather in the music room and have a live stream. But first, as always, a little music. Good evening, Budgie. Enjoy.
We are all the heirs to Scotland, as a nation proudly stand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let a flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. To the world we bid a welcome in 1,000 different ways. We will toast to long lost friendships as we build our better days. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. We are all the heroes of Scotland. We're a nation hand in hand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum.
Good evening, folks. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all cozy. I hope you're all settled. Dovey dealing with these dogs. Good evening, Robert. So here we are, folks, once again on the brink of the weekend. My, where do the weeks go? They're almost at the end of May. Streaky bacon. Great to be here. It sure is. It sure is. Great to be here. And the time just flashes by. I think it's only when you're in your childhood does time seem to take forever. The rest of your life just seems to zip along. And I think one of the things about that is that because so much of our lives, all of our lives, is spent in repetition, you know, doing the same things on a daily basis, I think that adds to the feeling that I wonder where it all went, because so much of what we do and how we're involved is spent largely with the same people in the same backgrounds. And those times seem to just melt together. Quite often they lose their definitions. Robert, days drag by, months fly in here. Yeah, well, this is what I'm saying. Oh, there's Treble M. Good evening, Treble M. I don't, honestly don't, I've never thought that this quality that time has uh, is restricted to an age. Good evening, Drust. I see you've got a new song out. I need to get it downloaded and get it up on the channel a few times. I'm just philosophizing a little bit on the quality that time seems to have over us. Because I remember pretty clearly as a teenager, that suddenly a year had gone past. In my own case, and I'm sure it'll be the same as you, all of you, that certainly when you're a teenager, you're less in a routine than you are, say, when you're 30 or 40. I think my teenage life in a group, there was nothing very routine about it. Well, I know that's the standard thing to say, Streaky. Life seems to go faster than you are to the grave. I know that's the standard uh, attitude, but I don't think that it's restricted to that. I really don't. I've always found that time has just kind of zoomed past, regardless of what age I am. Maybe that's just peculiar to me. I don't know. But I know it has a reputation. The older you get, the faster time goes. Durst is saying, time, that capricious doxy, always rushing about, never pausing for reflection. And there's our young William here. Time waits for no man. Well, that's for sure. That's for sure. I kept thinking Thursday of this week was Friday. I've had weeks like that as well. Time and tide waits for no man. I bet if we asked William there, because William's a good deal younger than I am, I bet he finds that his time is zooming past. I bet he has. There's Bass. Good evening, Bass. I think a lot of this illusion about time and its passage, I think it's directly related to the way you live your life. That's what I think. Real. I just noticed that. I lose track of which day it is all the time. Again, that I can relate to that. I can definitely relate to that. And that has definitely reared its ugly head in my own life since my illness. Having spent so much time last year in and out of hospital and in and out of bed, lost track. All the habits, not saying they're great habits, but all the habits that I had were all broken down and discarded. And once those, I think this is where it comes in, once those habits go and you don't establish a new set, uh, you've got no real reason to keep a close tab on which day it is. Does it really matter if you go to the shops on a Friday or a Tuesday? Which is my point. Whereas if you've got a strict habit, then it becomes somewhat important to you to know which day it is. So you know which day that you usually go for messages. It's like another thing. I was talking to my aunt today. My auntie Mary had a canary. Uh, Streaky. I think if you try something new, it slows life down, says Streaky. For example, this week I tried Valium. Ah, very good, Streaky. Yes, of course it is. Trevor was saying it's part and parcel of being retired. Yeah, well, I've been retired a long time, and I've always found time passed quickly. And as I said, when I was a young man, I found the same thing. I've always found that time moved along too quickly. Yes, I know, Ril. I understood that you and Treble M and possibly somebody else were talking about birds and yeah, it's fine. Nothing wrong in that. It's part of the community spirit. You're talking about things that you've all got in common. I don't mind that. But you see, if I say these things and you folks are involved in your own conversations, well, I don't feel as bad about me speaking because there's people here, so to speak. I'm not talking to myself, really. Streaky. Last week I tried arson, crochet, and homosexuality. But I didn't want to talk about that. It's just a curious thing. That's all. It's just something I find curious. Don't see many birds around here, folks. And I'm again, that's something that I had to give up. If you remember, I was feeding the wild birds there for a while. But because my house backs onto a bakery, there's always the potential for rats, and there are rats around here. So if you start feeding the wild birds, then it doesn't take too long for the population of rats to increase. So I had to give all that up. Rill saying I had a greater spotted woodpecker come to my bird feeder every year. Once there was 3 of them, must have been mum, dad, and baby. Ah, bearing the brunt. Well, thank you for asking. today is one of those days that I have felt and continue to feel my old self. I feel strong and healthy. I feel as though I've got some energy. Yeah, it's pretty good. I, as far as I know, I continue to put on weight, which is in my condition is all good. Well, thanks very much, folks. It does help. Toffee. Great to hear, John. Buy on forum. Yeah. Well, I feel it. I mean, I feel as though like the way I once did, before the cancer struck. Yeah, I do feel that way. I don't feel that way every day. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I don't. Some days I don't feel. Uh, well, some days I don't have any energy, and that's something that's unusual for me. Oh, that's absolutely correct, Streaky. I think the sun does wonders to a person's spirit also. Absolutely. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. One of the great pleasures that we used to have um, was being able to go to Spain for 10 days and the ability to sit outside at 7 in the evening or so, or even later, and having nice food and a few drinks. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, just absolutely brilliant. And I would love to be able to live like that, to have the weather conditions to be able to do that. Real saying I've heard cutting carbs can starve cancer. Might be worth investigating. I just love Spain. I'll look into that real when I'm at the doctor. I go to see the doctor in a few weeks' time. Next week I go for a scan, and then a fortnight later I'll go for a consultation, and they will tell me the state of play as to what's going to happen next, if anything. The best I can possibly get is for them to say nothing's changed. If nothing's changed, that will mean, I suspect, that will mean that there'll be no chemotherapy. That's what I suspect. But as I say, that'll depend on what's happening inside the lung. I can hear my sons walking about. Well, I do, Robert. I mean, I do. I do my best to get outside, try and get my legs exercised. Uh, I'd really like to get rid of this blood clot in my leg. But yes, I do get out as often as I can, even if it isn't particularly sunny. Put a jacket on and go out. I've always got to wear the hat. Uh, what hair I had on top is gone thanks to chemotherapy. So I don't want to get sunstroke. I've had it too many times. It's awful. So yeah, but thanks for the advice and encouragement, folks. Toffee. Spain is sound, but Spanish people stink to high heaven. Sweaty, hairy people. Are you referring to a lady by any chance, Toffee? I couldn't help but say that. Never been with a Spanish lady. Oh, I'm absolutely no gardener, that's for sure, Gavin. My neighbour's been very good since he arrived here a few years back. He spent a lot of money and put a lot of decking down, and um, my sister bought me two lovely, relaxing chairs for the back. I bought um, a fire pit, and all of that was going nicely. And then, boom, Laura took unwell. No, lockdown started. Laura took unwell, and then I took unwell. So it's never had the use that I had hoped it would have the use. I would agree with that, bearing the brand. I wouldn't like to work in the Mediterranean conditions. I wouldn't like it at all. Don't know how they manage it. Well, I do know they take a siesta. They're sensible. Working in really hot conditions in other countries can be a killer, though. Always nice when you're chilling with a pint after. I just love the weather. That's why I really liked um, the western states that I visited in America because of the weather. When I was very, very young, as a very young man, my ambition was to live in a country where I didn't need to own a raincoat, but it never happened. Never happened. But you all know what the weather conditions are like in the west of Scotland. Just dreadful. So whenever we do get a bit of sun, we have to make the most of it because it never lasts. And again, that's one of those dreams that never came to anything, you know. My late wife Helen, we discovered pretty early on in our married life that her auntie and uncle, when they retired, that's what they had started to do. They started holidaying in Benidorm over the winter period, you know, like 3 months they went. And we thought this was a brilliant idea. Ah, good evening there, Woodlander. We thought this was brilliant. Didn't know, this is the first time we'd met anyone or knew anyone who had done this. And they were doing that on a yearly basis. And Helen and I said, well, we retire. This is what we should be doing. We should aim for that as a retirement plan, if you like. And we should talk about it a lot in those dreary, wet evenings in Scotland. Uh, but then Helen took cancer and died, and that put paid to that idea. I'm not all that sure, bearing the brunt, that I would quite line up with what you're saying there. I always miss the crispy, wintry weather of home, strangely enough, says he. Nothing quite like home with its shitty weather and all. I don't know. Dreary, wet evenings everywhere, says Woodlander. Anyway, it was one of those nice, cozy thoughts that we had for a long time. That's not being so good here. Well, don't know where it is you are, but it's certainly not great here. Uh, Drizzly. And then when I saw what Spain was like, the very first time I ever saw Spain was obviously the first time we went on holiday. I'll tell you what it was like, or how it happened. Is after a long discussion over a long period of time, Laura very generously said, well, why don't, because we could never get there because of me and my money problems. But she said, why don't I pay for the holiday and then you can pay it back to me? Pay it up every week or so. And I thought, yeah, I like that idea. And I didn't feel bad about this. So we went into a travel agent and we booked up. And I think it was breakfast. I think that's what it was. And we'd no sooner booked up this holiday when we received word from the travel agent to go in and see them. So then we trooped to be told that the place we had booked into was going to be having some work done close by. And this would cause a bit of disruption to the hotel that we were meant to be going to. And was that okay? And they said that they would offer us a discount. Or they were willing to upgrade us and put us elsewhere. I've never really been on the inside woodland like yourself. It's been the coastal area, the island itself, Mallorca. Uh, so yeah, this is what happened. The place they were offering us was at the opposite end of the island from where we were supposed to be going. This was the north of the island. Now, this didn't mean anything to me or Laura because we'd never been. Uh, so we said, yeah. So they upgraded us to this other place and made it all inclusive. Now, the place that they upgraded us to was named Cala San Vicente. So when we arrived, we were going out on a last flight out of Glasgow Airport, which in those days was at 11:30 at night, which to me was brilliant, perfect. Toffee. uh, anyway, uh, so when we arrived at Palma, it was in the morning, and we got on. And I used to, shows you how little I knew about this. I would say, Laura, how did we get from the airport to the hotel? How how does that work? I didn't know how all this worked. So anyway, we arrived in Palma Airport. The buses are sitting outside, of course, uh, and off we went. Now it took over an hour for us to arrive in Cala San Vicente. So it was about 3 in the morning. somewhere around there. And we got the bus stop, we got out, there's our cases on the pavement, and the bus drives off. And to me, it was like stepping into a fairyland. It was empty, was the person out. It was lovely and warm. There was lights on in the street, white stonework everywhere. It was absolutely, in my eyes and imagination, just beautiful. I was captivated instantly. And that was the first experience of Spain I had. Such a deep, lasting impression on me. And as it turned out, that's what I'm talking about, Woodlander. When Helen was alive, that was what we had hoped to do, was go to Spain and retire. But her death changed everything. Uh, it's something I'll never forget, that seeing Calasan for the very first time. I was so drunk on a ferry back from Spain, says Streaky, in Portsmouth, disembarking. The security held me back, and I had to be escorted off with the disabled people last to leave. Jesus. Oh, Mr. Smiley. That's a new name here tonight. James Tyler. Tyler, I think you've been here before, if I remember. I got arrested on a Birmingham train, sticking up for a Forest fan. We all have those moments. So that whole thing turned out to be uh, a wonderful experience. And we returned there year after year after year for many, many years. Now, not that I don't like children, obviously I like children, but that was one of the things that we enjoyed about it. There was nothing for children to do in this place, so there was no uh, children there. It was all adults. There was no uh, loud pubs or anything, because again, uh, teenagers tended not to come to this place because there was nothing to do at night except sit in the bars and have a drink and have a chat with people you didn't know, which I really enjoyed. That's what I really enjoyed as well. Uh, Meeting people, a lot of English people, some Irish, and but mainly English people from all over England, Wales as well, and I enjoyed all of that. Again, that whole experience was new to me. The idea you're sitting at a table, people would come over, sit down, ask if it was okay to join you, They would sit down, and before you know it, you're in a conversation. Brilliant. Oh God, you're talking about them toffee, yeah. Overly aggressive, looky man. I forgot about it. I wanted him to get away from me and my girl, my bird. And obviously, all hell broke loose. uh, Again, it's something we did not experience in Calasan itself. It was a nice village close by, short journey from Calasan itself. Again, that was what just fired my imagination. Those first few years of going there, I remember going to reception and asking, was there a town or a village nearby? Yes. And how would I get there? The bus would just go out the hotel, and the bus was just up the street. So off we popped, and it's one of these small buses. And the driver is lying out in the back seat having a siesta. Lola says, well, what should we do? I says, well, we'll go for a quick walk back to the hotel, get a drink, and come back. Which is what we did. But he wasn't going to budge until he had his siesta. And I just thought this was brilliant. And off we popped into the village. Lovely village, churches. I must show you the photographs sometime. I've got plenty of photographs, as you can imagine. God, it's quite a different experience bearing the brunt. Many moons ago, first time arriving in Port Said, Egypt, the foul smell of excrement literally burned my nostrils. Horrible and constantly berated by beggars and sailors. Doesn't sound very good, that, does it? Oh, you off early, Anglo. Okie doke. Well, thanks for being here. I always appreciate people coming. I need to look them out, of course. I have them somewhere. I made a mistake, of course. I should have known better being a professional, but I just never thought about it. The first time I went, I had taken colour film, and I'd also taken black and white film. And stupidly, I loaded black and white into the camera. Oh. And of course, the black and white film was destroyed going through airport security, wasn't it? I should have known better. I did know better, I just never thought about it enough. So I lost the black and white film, and I wasn't going to pay for it out there because it was costing a fortune. Oops. Mr. Smiley says there is a church in Spain that has been under construction for 137 years. La Saragota. One day I hope to visit, even with construction going on. It's truly beautiful. Palma has a cathedral. Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely magnificent place. Oh, it's got to be a record, that, hasn't it? 137 years. Jeez. But I noticed that as well in Spain. They don't seem to be in a hurry to do anything, which is great. I'm being asked, James, have you done the full tour of Scotland up north and the Isles? My best mate is Scottish and hasn't been to, whoops, hasn't been to half the places I've been to. Not trying to sound blotchy. I find it sad. Well, I've done a bit of travelling, James, through Scotland. I did a fair bit of that when I had a motorcycle. And shortly after buying a motorbike, I bought a two-man tent so that at the weekend, now remember, most of the time when I had a motorbike, I was a postman. So on a Saturday, and those were the days when you got a delivery on a Saturday, you were finished when you had done your walk, you had delivered all your mail for your walk, cleared the boxes, and going back to the sorting office with the collected mail. Drop off your bag and the mail. So you could get an early start on a Saturday being a postman, which I took advantage of any time the weather was reasonable. And being on a motorbike allows you, as you probably know, to go places that a car cannot go. So I saw a fair bit of the West Coast, a lot of the East Coast. Then I was invited by a fella that was a friend of mine at the time. He was a school librarian, and I worked in the schools. But he got himself a job up on Orkney as a school librarian. What a job, eh? Well, he got this job as a single man. And he obviously met a lass and got married. And I got an invitation to the wedding. By this time, I had a motor car. Helen it was after 93, so Helen had passed away by then. So the invitation was for me. I go Well, my mother obviously was still alive at this point. Uh, so she kind of looked after my son. Wasn't exactly a wee boy, he was a young man. And I drove up the East Coast in the car. Now, what he had done at his end, he had booked me into one of the local pubs, which was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. So when I got uh, up to, I can't remember the port that I left from, catch the ferry, uh, I just left the car on the mainland because I wasn't going to go anywhere. I had a beautiful sea crossing. Never forget the sea crossing. Absolutely beautiful. Calm sea. I was very fortunate. Calm sea. There was a mist, fog, and very atmospheric. Just this is just me now. He says, "This is the kind of person I am. I'm carried away with all of this stuff. You make a sound and it echoes forever. And the old man ahoy coming out of the mist, just breathtaking. There it is, just suddenly it's there. And you feel as though, because I was outside, obviously, on the deck, if you feel as though you're going to hit the thing, but you don't, obviously. You're not that close to it. And then Orkney itself, oh, beautiful, beautiful place. Absolutely gorgeous. So I had an experience of the Highland wedding, and then, of course, it was a Ceilidh afterwards. I had this beautiful pub that I was staying in, upstairs, of course. Uh, Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Nice meal, good food. And then at the end, when the Ceilidh was breaking up, 1, 2 in the morning, whatever time it was, I saw them fixing stuff up near the door. I wasn't quite sure what it was, but what it was big urns with homemade soup. So as you were leaving, you were getting this big mug, big big cup of homemade Scottish soup. Oh, and the weather was great. You know, when I say it was great, it was dry. It wasn't that cold. I was right on the dock. And there were all these boats there. So John being John, he takes his big cup of homemade soup. And as I'm drinking it, I'm walking around the dock area looking at different boats. I don't know what time it was by the time I got back to the hotel. But oh, what an experience. And then the following day I got to walk around the little village of Orkney itself. Beautiful. So that's my experience of Scotland. uh, I've been to Edinburgh a few times, been to the, what do you call it? Oh gosh, it's gone. The name. It's gone out of my head. But when the smoking ban was coming in, we decided, the three of us, my big mate Jerry, who's no longer with us, and my other friend who is with us, And we went through to Edinburgh for the weekend and had a brilliant weekend there. Went up to see the Templars place just outside of Edinburgh. You can get there by bus, public transport. So we went up there and had a look at that. I'm sure the day will come to eventually. It was in the film with Tom Hanks. Oh, good evening, PBC. And how are you? I hope you're well. I hope DJ is well. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's the last place what do you call it? The Templars built in Scotland. It was the last place. You should visit Liverpool if you ever get a chance. You'd be impressed with my city. You've always said that, Toffee. I know that you're very proud of the city that you live in, and you should be too. Sort your garden out. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, BBC. Rosalind Chapel is where I went, and I took photo. I took two cameras. My son had bought me a video camera, and I was in the middle of making a film, so I took the video camera to get more footage for this film I was trying to make, and I took my still camera. And had a thoroughly great time. We went on one of these so-called ghost walks, and we had a guide doing his best to creep us out, make us a wee bit kind of nervy. Failed, of course, in my case, and my friends. But it was interesting, don't get me wrong, but by God, talk about raining. Oh, jinx. It was thundering down. We took shelter in one of the tombs. But Rosalind Chapel was very interesting. It was an interesting place. If I ever get a chance, you should go and see it. It hadn't become the icon that it became when we went. Although the film was out, people didn't realise that Rosalind Chapel was in Scotland. It wasn't too clear, but now it's overwhelmed. Oh, it is that, Woodlander. I'm going to assume you've seen it for yourself. It's got all sorts of images, all sorts. I think myself, for what it's worth, is that some of this imagery is there to confuse, deliberately to confuse and to hide. I wouldn't like to speculate on what it is they're trying to hide. And there is, of course, it is true that there is a hidden chamber below the chapel itself, which has never been entered. People who have got ownership over it won't allow it. And they've tried, it has been tried to be photographed, this hidden chamber, but unsuccessfully. Good evening, Parker. Nice to see you here, sir. I went after I read Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, the book Da Vinci Code was based on. Well, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about then. You are very well informed, my dear. Gilman Coast has been linked to the Templars, yeah. You're very well informed. Just so you know, I'm going to have as one of my guests after she's going to do a live stream with Sensum, and then she's coming and going to do a live stream on this channel, and I'm talking about Joni Rotten. And I only just discovered that Joni is an American girl, lady. So I'm looking forward to that. And as I've already said to BBC, I'm soon going to have my sister Alison on, and hopefully BBC will be able to join us. And maybe at some future point we could get the three of these ladies on together, which would be pretty interesting. Well, I haven't fixed out a date yet with Alison because she's going off on holidays soon. She's going off on a Mediterranean cruise. But yeah, I think that'll be a really great stream. And I can quite easily see, before it even happens, that it won't be a 2-hour stream. It will be longer than that. Well, she got off to the Med, then at some point later in the year, she tells me she's going off to see Rome. Well, that's for sure. Women can talk. Oh, you've heard her, Toffee. Oh, that's good. She's great. I love her accent. Again, what I found and I've been quite fortunate, I've got to say. I mean, I have done a reasonable amount of travel in my life. I really have. And, and what I was going to say on the back of Toffee's comment is when I went to the USA, and I did go there for a reason, as you know, or some of you know. Um, like anywhere I've been, talking to the ordinary people that you come across, they're all great. They're all just very much like ourselves. Different accent, of course. Sometimes they use the same words, but use it in a different way, of course. Uh, but they're not much different in their broader thinking than we are. They want the same things as we do. And that tells me that the problem isn't, for example, the problem isn't the American people. The problem is the American political class. What's the problem in this country? The political class. It's not the ordinary folk. Same as a couple of other places I've been. That's what I've found. When you get to speak to the ordinary person, you find so much commonality. It's just brilliant. And I wonder, I say, well, why is it we still have war? Well, it's not us that caused the war. We just have to go and die in them. Mike Z, thank you for your blethering. Stop in every now and again, and I must say thank you. Well, that's fine. Glad you enjoy the blethering. Well, there you go. That's what I'm saying. Bearing the brunt. It's just, we're separated by language, us and the Americans. That's my experience, James. That's what I've experienced. People want the same things. They want a decent life, whatever they consider to be a decent life. They want a nice house, food at the table, family, and to have a wee bit of a holiday. I've yet to ever meet anyone who ever talked about making war or causing trouble. That's politicians that do that. And it simply tells me that in the 21st century, it's time all the countries, need to abandon so-called professional politicians and get rid of them permanently. Streaky. If I miss a ladies' stream, I can recreate the event by going to a chicken coop and hear endless clucking and squawking. Well, Joni Rotten was saying that she was thinking of doing the same thing, getting a ladies' stream up and running, which I thought was a good idea. But if and obviously coming from the USA, the problem there is going to be uh, a question of timing. Get the timing. But I know that's something that's always fascinated me because there are so uh, few women in our ranks that are prepared to come on and speak. But we've got CBC, no, PBC rather. Now I know that this Joni woman is prepared to come on and speak, and Alison is prepared to come on and speak. So there's three. uh, so long as it ain't that week of the month, says Packer. Them old American birds are awake all hours on antidepressants and designer tablets. She will be around, says Streaky. You want your eggs to be scrambled? Oh, I tell you, you folk. Bearing the brunt. Because the US is so big, many rarely travel. That's absolutely true, of course. But I was always surprised how so many actually think England is massive. They are very shocked when I explain we are absolutely tiny. The other thing that I found was they would ask me where I was from. Uh, of course, I would say Scotland. And I kid you not, almost every one of them would say, "Oh, I know that. That's that island just above England, isn't it?" But when we talk about the USA, we use words like it's enormous, it's gigantic, it's huge. But it isn't any of those things. Not really. It's actually much bigger than any of those words can describe. You don't really appreciate just how large the place is unless you go there. And I've told you before, I'll just remind you, when I went, I had a 30-day travel card for the Greyhound bus service. So I could go anywhere using this bus pass for 30 days. And that was the way I saw the USA from a bus. You're a Geordie. Whereas my family obviously know where I'm from England, says bearing the brunt. But strangers think I'm actually Irish. I'm a Geordie, so I can forgive them. Well, takes money, BBC, to see the world. And, and don't get confused. I'm talking about over a long period of time. Yeah, well, you see, again, as you all know, or most of you know, I had a good reason to go to America. Now, it just so happens that at the time, and for a good few years, around the 90s, maybe the 80s and the 90s, the USA itself was promoting itself as a destination for Europeans, especially us Brits. Now that resulted in special deals, and that's where the bus pass came in. I went at a time, I went in 1993, because that's the year Helen died. And it so happened that the Greyhound bus service, like other parts of the infrastructure, were giving out these special deals, and that was one of them. You could buy 30 days of travel on a Greyhound for X amount. I can't honestly remember how many dollars it was. I'd, I've got all the ticket souvenirs and everything. I'd need to check it all up again. So that's how I bought these tickets. And I'm glad I did. And it's very well organised. That was the thing I learned the hard way on that first morning of arriving at the bus terminus. We, not knowing any better, got on the bus with our bags, which of course you don't do. No, you go to the bus station, you give them your bag, they give you a ticket, and your bags are taken to the coach and put under the coach. You live and learn, right? Learn that after the first journey. And so when you get to the other end, that's when you see your baggage again. But that's how we saw America, by road. And it was fascinating to watch how the scenery changed depending on where we were. Well, at the time it was desert because we were in the southwest. So we travelled we landed in Texas. That was an experience in itself. Again, it was a night flight. Well, we didn't. When we arrived in America, we landed at the international airport. Huge place. I mean, absolutely huge. It's so huge it has a horizon of its own. But anyway, we went from there to Texas by plane. That was a few hours. And by the time we got to the airport or near the airport, it was night time. And we were in a thunderstorm with lightning bolts flashing everywhere. Really exciting stuff, folks. That's for sure. And there was a lot, well, there was a bit of screaming, but not a lot because the plane was only half filled. That's the great surprise. It was before 9/11, obviously. And before 9/11, boarding an airplane in the States was like getting on a bus. It really was. There was really no formality to it at all. That's all gone now. So we were in a waiting pattern, waiting. Of course, then the landing spots had backed up. Everything was running late, so planes fly in the sky waiting to get permission to land. We were one of them. So it was quite an interesting experience. I have to explain that in the frame of mind that I was in that time, I never gave a thought to the possibility of dying. I was not frightened at all. Oh, you've been in one, so you have. Well, it's because I was in a deep state of mourning at this point. Okay, Helen had just passed away in March. This is the end of the year. It's as close to Halloween, so I'm not even worried about whether I die or not. I'm not even thinking about it. Anyway, we got down safely, obviously, and I had nothing booked. I had no hotel nor motel. I had no transport booked. I had nothing. I walked out of the airport. This is true. Looking for a bus stop. I mean, it sounds so crazy now, but it's true. That's what I did. I came out thinking, madly that there would be buses there. This is my first time on an airplane, by the way. I've never flown before. I've never. I've been out of the country once. Now that was Denmark, but I did that by ferry. I went across on the ferry. I had the car with me, and we drove. This is the first time on a plane, and I had nothing booked. And then when I go outside, and it's very late at night again, it's dark, and we go outside the airport, and it obviously was not the front door. This was one of the many side entrances. There's a whole line of these taxi cabs, and every one of the drivers was this giant black fella standing like this. And I'm thinking to myself, I ain't going in one of those taxis. I'm just not going in. And I saw over at this other side that there were what looked like bus stops. So I thought, said to the wee fella, right, what we'll do is we'll wait over there and see what buses arrive. It's madness. I don't know how. Anyway, it's mad. I mean, didn't have to wait that long when a minivan comes rolling in. And I said to the wee fella, right, we're getting in this van. I don't know where it's going, but we're getting in it. So there were some people get in before us, then we get in and put our luggage in it. And off we went. I thought, my God, we're out of the airport. I wonder where we're going. So I discovered that this is how it works. This is a van that belongs to a motel. The motel has sent the van to the airport because they're expecting guests. And they're in this van along with us, or we're in along with them, should I say. But we're not booked into the motel. So we finally get to the motel, discovered it's fully booked. And it's a young guy who's the driver. And he hears us, or hears me at the desk get rejected. So he says, I can take you to a place. Great. Jump back in the van. And he takes us to another motel, which was about 5 minutes away. And it turned out to be superb. And that was my welcome to the USA. But prior to that, what made it even more nerve-wracking was going through customs at the airport. That was really nerve-wracking. Because we're coming off the plane and I've got a backpack. And in the backpack is a casket with Helen's cremated remains. And I don't have any paperwork for this. I have no permission to bring this into the USA. Of course, as you're waiting there to go through customs, there's a whole line of men standing with guns and uniforms. It's quite overwhelming when you're not used to it, and you're doing something that could easily prevent you from getting into the country. Because I don't have permission to do this. And I keep thinking to myself, what will happen if they insist on opening this box? Will they think I don't know what they'll think. But I'm definitely going to get hauled aside and put under some kind of detention at this point. And fortunately, God was on my side. And it never came up as a question what was in this bag. The only thing I did have, the only thing I had was a certificate from the undertaker declaring that the contents of this box was indeed cremated remains of the late Helen Davidson. That's what I had. But I needed more. And I had written to the American embassy for the paperwork to allow me to take this in. I had. But I had never received any reply. And I was in no fit mental condition to be dealing with this. So I probably rashly took it upon myself. I thought, to hang, I've got to go. I've got to do this. If I get stopped, I'm sure they'll understand. I'm telling myself all of this stuff. And I got through customs with it. But it was pretty nerve wracking. But it's all written down in the book, so if you ever want to know all the details, you can buy the book and read about it. But the bus ticket was brilliant. It allowed me to see the country. Where are you going, Toffee? I'm sorry, I haven't been. You going in some kind of? You're not going up in a balloon, are you? Yep, he's going up in a balloon. Toffee's going up in a balloon. If you hear on the news, Scouts have crashed into a field in freak hot air balloon accident, you're all invited to my funeral. Oh, I like that. Scouser crash in a field to the far right of Liverpool. He'll be okay. If I can take contraband into the USA, you'll be fine. So that was my very first experience on an airplane. And we had turbulence going across the Atlantic, of course, did we not? And that was exciting. Plane bouncing all over the place, and all those trolleys, zooming up and down. Amazing. But as you can all see, I made it home eventually. Up to here in debt, of course. But never mind. Had to be done. Had to be done. And I wanted to do it as quickly as I could. If I was going to do this, and I wanted it to be done sooner rather than later. I was concerned that if I didn't do it sooner, that it might become too easy not to do it at all. I hate flying, says the woodlander. It's okay when it's smooth, but turbulence is a sign of imminent death. Well, again, woodlander, I was in trauma of mourning. Right, Helen had just died a couple of months back. I didn't really care whether we hit the Atlantic or not. That's the state of mind I was in. But it was traumatic, and of course, it doesn't help when you. And this was a three, you know, seats in three places, so it was a pretty big plane, and there's all these women screaming, and some guys as well screaming, and those trolleys come thundering down the passageways as the plane suddenly dips down or suddenly dips up. It was uh, it was an experience. I will say that. Um, in all the years of flying to Spain, I don't remember it ever really happening in those flights, but they were only a couple of hours. Flight to the US was much longer. I don't mind it, says Rill. It's all the getting on and off with all the people I hate. Once I'd done it a few times with the girls, the flying to back and forth to Spain, that is. It, I became very quickly jaded by it all. I can't I can't handle takeoff either, says the woodlander. Just unnatural and effing terrifying. But we do it regardless. That's true. I have to tell you this though. You can make of this what you will. Okay? On these flights to Spain, no, you can't drink the water. No. In fact, we used to buy drinking water and use it for doing the old just to be careful. But yeah, uh, after I had been doing this flight to Spain a few times, I I decided to ask, could I speak to the pilot? This is where we're sitting at Glasgow Airport, of course. Right, we haven't taken off, and I was taken up to see the captain, and I had made a little sketch on an A4 paper of the British Isle, France, and then the Mediterranean, the island that we were going to. So I showed this to the captain, And I explained to him how I thought he navigated from Glasgow Airport to Palma, and asked him to confirm that this is how it was done. And he said, yeah, it's exactly how it was done. I said, so you take all your navigation points from the ground. Uh-huh. So this has got nothing to do with satellite technology. No. I said, now, this sounds as though this all happens in the one conversation, but it didn't. It took several conversations because anytime he spoke to the captain, they're prepared to take off. So I only ever had a few moments with the guys, right? But one of the times, because I got past this, I knew how they navigated. I was absolutely certain about that. So I said to him, well, so you're taking all your instructions from ground. Ah. I said, do you take into consideration the movement of the earth? No. I said, well, how can you be sure if the earth is travelling at nearly 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, and we're getting close to the equator as we get to Spain, how do you know the island's always going to be there if you don't take that movement of the earth into consideration? That it was kind of like that, Mudgy. As you find Spain, turn left at Sophos. No, you get up into the sky, you head south in a straight line down the centre of the country, passing all the major cities in England. You get to London, you do a kind of left turn, and you cross over into France, and then into Spain, and then you're into the Mediterranean and the island. So, no, we don't take that into consideration at all. So your navigation is not based on the movement of the earth. So how do you know it's moving then? It says it's not. You don't see it. So I came to the conclusion that we're on a stationary plane, as indicated by pilots all over the world, basing their calculations on the fact that they're on a stationary plane, which is in fact what they do. There is no accounting for the earth movement because there is no earth movement. So there you go. You can make of that what you want. Obviously, I'm simplifying the mathematics of it, but that's essentially what they do. They take off from the airport if you're going to Spain from Britain, anywhere, and they head south. And when they get to London, or if they're taking off from London, that's already in their calculations. They cross France, then they cross Spain, and there's the Med. So the island's there. But if you take the idea that we are sold, that we are told is the fact that the earth is moving, if it takes 2.5 hours, as it does, to get to Spain from Glasgow, the island shouldn't be there by the time we get there. It should be. It should be way far to the south, but it never is. It's always where it's meant to be. So, as a thought for you to ponder if you wish, or you can dismiss it as one of my many idle thoughts. But I could think of no better way to settle the argument as to whether we lived on a unmoving plane, and it would seem that we do, according to the way pilots navigate. That's the way we navigate on the sea as well. Curious, don't you think? I think it is. However, well, what I used to say, Budgie, is that you take off from Glasgow, you turn, heads directly south, down the centre of the country. You get to London, you do a bit of a left turn, keep going straight, and eventually you'll hit the Mediterranean and the island of Palma. Nay, not Palma, the island of uh, well, there's a couple of islands, isn't there? I'm thinking of there's two of them. I used to always go to Calasan via Palma Airport. So I hope you're all getting yourselves geared up for the upcoming election in July, I think it is. Yeah. But in the meantime, we have got some of summer to go through. I hope it's not going. I hope we've got better weather still to come. That would be really nice. Yeah. So there you go, folks. A couple of my travelling experiences. The girls used to go crazy because I'd go up and talk to the pilot. I was curious. I wanted to know. I wanted to hear them tell me how they navigated. Yes, I think you're right. I think you are correct, Will. The Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost, descended upon the disciples, were they not gathered together indoors, being very fearful because Jesus seemed to have disappeared on them. Bearing the brunt. I can I can already feel the overwhelming enthusiasm for the election in my area. Yeah, well, I don't think it's an election that my party will be able to take part in because of the cash involved. A lot of money. A lot of cash. I've done, of course, that was done deliberately years ago to make sure that ordinary people get cut out of the political process. Oh, Paca, you're off, are you? It was nice to see you again. Well, it's nice to know you were here. Uh, hope you're keeping well. Hope your boy's okay, your wife's okay, your cat's okay, and you're okay. I'll be closing the stream down shortly anyway. Streaky's asking, no, it's saying, I was surprised Farage never stood for the election. Streaky, my honest evaluation of Farage is he is simply someone who disrupts. I don't think he has any intention of ever standing for election. I think he's very good at promoting himself, and that's about it. I think he's one of these guys who is a gatekeeper. I really do. I've always thought that. I've never trusted this guy at all. Not once. I know he gets all the credit for the. Oh, that's good to know, Parker, that everything's all right with you. It's good to know. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hasdak is absolutely correct. He's a grifter. He's an ex-banker. He's wealthy. Not that there's anything wrong in being wealthy, you know. He's not. There's nothing wrong in being wealthy. We'd all like to be wealthy, if we're honest. I just a little bit of information I throw in there because I don't know that much about him, except he made his money in banking, commercial banking, and there is a difference, as you well know, folks. I think you've got it just about right there, Budgie. Gatekeeper and safety valve. Oh, what's the choice? Is there a choice? No, of course there's not. Bearing the brunt says the election in which you can vote to be thrown out of a plane at either 20,000 feet or 30,000 feet. That election, yeah, that election. Well, if you look at the state of the Labour Party, all this information that's come to light, Friends of Israel, they own the Commons. They're running the Commons behind the scenes, as always. Yeah, Starmer. Especially, I mean, I would say, I know what you're saying, I agree with you, Streaky, but I would say especially the Labour Party when I'm not an expert on the Labour Party. I really am not, but I know a little bit about its conception and its early existence. And if those men and women can see it now, that it must break their hearts. I think there's a certain amount of truth in that as well, Budgie. Okay, doke, boss. As I say, I'm shutting shop anyway. And I've already given my opinion about uh, Galloway. Galloway has shown that it's possible to get yourself elected. That's why they fear him so much, because he can do it. And he will encourage others. And that's, if there's any value in the man politically, that's the value that I place on him, personally speaking. Have you seen the ex-police officer called Gary Waterman on about mass fraud? No, I haven't. No, I have not. I'll no doubt trip over it at some point. As back, as back. But not so far. One of the things that I found, and it applies to all of us, it's nothing unique to me about it, is the older I've become. I didn't know that. The older I become, the more I have come to realize just how corrupt the world is. I think, as I've said many times, perhaps I've not said it enough, for my sake. I thought, before I came onto YouTube as a viewer, I thought I was reasonably clued up about politics until I came on YouTube. And all these years that I've been on YouTube have proved to be nothing but an awakening, a rude awakening, I might add. I didn't realize up until then just how corrupt everything was. I agree, Gavin. That's what I'm saying. I agree with you entirely. Not saying he's our guy, Robert. He's not our guy. Of course he's not. But he could show our people that we can, if we unite, if we do the job that's necessary, we can get elected. I still say Scotland's the place we need to get elected to. It's an easier route to power in Scotland than it is in England. That's just my own political view on it. And that's one of the many, many lessons I have learned. It's the depth of the corruption that staggers the mind. It staggers my mind. It really does. Just when you think there is nothing else, there's something else. Scott's porridge voice. Very good, Robert. Very good. So we are not in any position to challenge, and I'd rather wait for a Scottish election anyway. I think I've always said this long before I came anywhere near YouTube. I always thought the way things worked down south and up here, anybody trying to get past the established twosome would have a better chance in Scotland than they ever would have in England. And having Galloway there, if he could get himself and a couple of his guys and gals into power or into Parliament, he will show the general public that can be done. And I hope he does it, because there'll be diarrhea everywhere. They'll be so crazy with what will they do now if they have him and a few of his people. And I see that Mr. Corbyn has decided, thankfully, to stand as an independent. Another good move. All of these things help us. You might not agree with me, but that's how I see it. All these things make cracks and splits in the regime's apparent superiority over us, and that's the way I see it. No, I have not, Hasdak. Have you watched Andrew Briggin's interview? No, I have not. I have not. I've been laid low at the political front, to be honest. No particular reason for that. I've just taken a wee come in for a landing, so to speak. It's like I am always telling you good people, don't overdo it. You'll burn yourself out. That applies to me as well. So here's the outro music. I will do my best to check that out, as you have brought it to my attention. Good night to you too, madame. Corbyn's treatment was disgraceful. And the thing I can add to that, if you're interested, is, and I've told you that I did have this communist friend. I thought he was a friend. When he was coming up for election, you know, to become the leader of the party, the Communist Party sent out instructions to all of their members to join the Labour Party and vote Corbyn in, which I thought was quite underhanded. Anyway, there's the outward music. So take care. As I always like to say, folks, adios, au revoir, cheerio, and until Tuesday, God willing, I shall see you then. Do enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thank you once again for being here. And I'll speak to you all soon. Bye. Joy.
Silently the snow falls, paints a winter scene, swiftly spreads the dark rim, hides a fading autumn green. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, conjure friendships dear to me. Lightly now the breeze flows, disturbing more than just the leaves. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow. Patiently the love grows, lifts the weary heart. Gently now she holds me, melts two worlds once apart. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, usher dreams of you and me. Softly then the breeze blows, disturbing more than just the trees.
All together
But
now,
love's much more
so much more
than we can know.
than we can ever possibly know.
We are one small glow
What an important glow
in the eternal flow.
that we are like all together.
Melodies of long ago, songs of innocence, harmonies to soothe the soul, have some consequence. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, awakening joys of you and me. Silently the snow falls, bringing winter symphony.
All together now,
But we're much more
so much more
than we can know.
than we can ever possibly know.
We are one small glow
What a very important glow
in the eternal flow. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow the eternal flow.
Okay, folks, you take care. And I'll speak to you all soon. Thank you, bearing the brunt. Thank you for the compliment on the music. Appreciate that. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks. And once again, thank you for being here. Bye just now.